And now, let's switch gears a bit and take a look at one of the most important interfaces when it comes to managing your web applications. Most, though not all, modern websites make use of PHP in one way or another. Depending on your hosting provider, you may be able to customize your account's PHP configuration directly from within your cPanel account interface. This means that you can use the interface to automatically change your active PHP version or common PHP configuration variables like post max size or memory limit, etc. This depends highly on the server setup your hosting provider has configured, so some components may not be available on your server. They will also need to be using our most current release of EasyApache 4. So, on my setup, within the Multi-PHP Manager interface, we can see that my domain still has the inherited default PHP version assigned by the server, which is EA-PHP 5.6 in this case. This just means that the version of PHP used on this domain is 5.6. So what happens if I have more than one domain? Well, let's find out. Alright, so now that I've got a second domain here, I can see that I've got the ability to assign different PHP versions for different domains by selecting the appropriate checkbox on the left, then clicking the drop-down at the top right, selecting the version I want, and clicking Apply. Easy enough. One other thing you might notice is the PHP FPM column on the right. Here, you'll either see a checkbox or an X, depending on whether PHP FPM is activated on your account. In my case, PHPM is activated for one domain, but not the other. FPM stands for Fast CGI Process Manager and assists the server in managing PHP processes efficiently. It can affect how your PHP applications run and perform, so consult your developer or application documentation to ensure compatibility. Contact your hosting provider for assistance if you run into trouble here. Another place you can alter your PHP configuration within is the Multi-PHP INI Editor interface. Here, using either the basic mode or the editor mode, you can alter the PHP configuration specific to the appropriate folders on your website. Most of the time you can accomplish your PHP configuration needs easily within the basic mode. And keep in mind that some configuration directives may not be available, depending on your host configuration and the PHP version in use. In my site, I need to beef up the memory limit value a bit while I'm doing some application testing. So I'm going to select my site from the drop-down menu, so that my changes are applied within the public HTML folder. Depending on the server setup, I could potentially make these changes using the home folder selection, which would create the configuration file in my /home/user folder. But to be safe, I'm going to create it within the sites folder. So I'm going to double my memory limit, changing it from 32 megs to 64. Now I'm going to scroll down and click Apply. Done. Now to show you what happened here, we'll pull up the File Manager. We're going to take a look at the File Manager interface in a bit more detail later on, but for the purposes of demonstration, let's take a look at our public HTML folder right now. So here we can see that a PHP INI file has been created and contains the configuration values that were shown in our Multi-PHP INI editor interface, including the memory limit value of 64 megs. These will report when your PHP application is loaded. So back to the editor, just to highlight its availability, the editor mode of the INI editor allows users to write in their own configuration values for those who are familiar enough to do so. And we can also see here that this reflects the changes that we've already made in the basic editor. Essentially, this is just a quick access way to edit that PHP INI file that we just looked at in the File Manager. Now, depending on the permissions provided by the host, this can also sometimes include PHP directives that are not present in the basic mode. With that in mind, be careful about what you write in here. cPanel does have validation to try and help avoid causing any application errors. However, it's better to be safe than sorry. As always, take a look at our documentation on these interfaces for some additional tips, tricks, and generally helpful information.